So today we're talking leading working parents. So look.
And again, we're talking about it in the context of lockdowns, restrictions across Australia. Distance learning, where kids are home from school and parents are not able to get care. So I think that is a very unique set of circumstances, and that's what we want to focus on today.
We do. I mean, there's challenges managing people with kids at the best of times in regular programming, but I do think that there are some pretty significant considerations. I'll tell you what I'm a little bit nervous about today is I think we've got a, like you say, pretty well-defined problem or challenge, but I'm a little bit uncertain as to whether we've got the answers today. So how about we just get rolling and see what we stumble into?
Well, you know what my starting point is, that I worry that a lot of leaders are just missing or ignoring. The reality is, if you have staff members with children in Melbourne, let's use Melbourne as the example, those children are in the house with your team members all day. There's no nannies, there's no grandparents, there's no childcare. And so if you are deluded enough to think that team member is going to be on 115% or even 90% from 9 till 5, well, you've got another thing coming. So I think the starting point is actually acknowledge that this is an issue that is existing. It is not your staff members' creation. And it's just something that you need to actually acknowledge, address, and start talking about. If you haven't already, you're going to be seeing a lot of efficiency disappear.
Issues, no, absolutely. And I agree with all of that. And the hard part is, so, in regular programming, people work from home. There's flexible hours. There's, people work remotely. People work all over the place. People pick their kids up from school, take them to sport, do all those things.
But the kids are not there.
But they get a block, certainly school age and even kinder and childcare and all that. Like, you get a block of time where you're capable of doing some form of work if you're working in that environment. Right now, that's for the vast majority gone. And now it's favourable. This is probably the only silver lining, that there's a number of industries that have been sort of wound right down at the moment. So there'd be some parents that would be actually sitting there looking for something to do. But there's still a large cohort, and it's the majority, who are still employed and are in circumstances where they've got the kids. Now, if you've got a situation where someone has a job where they're on the phone all day and they've got the kids in the background, or they're trying to homeschool, as you say, homeschool, it's distance learning.
Not allowed to say homeschool.
I'm not allowed to say homeschool. I've been warned, homeschool. But they're trying to manage that. They've got all those and no sort of bailout. And this has been for months. Now it's getting up to months. So as a leader, so let's take it from the leader's shoes. You've got a team and you've got a number of people in your team that are in that circumstance. What are some of the things that you think you can implement?
Yes.
I understand you say about the starting position that you have given some flexibility. But what are some of the things you think are worth implementing?
Well, starting point is identify the people in your team that are in this position.
That's a good start.
That's a good start.
Yep.
But I don't think a lot of employers are. They're just like, that's your problem, you deal with it. That is a mistake, right? You need to actually have conversations with your team members and say, okay, are you at home alone, or do you have another adult, another partner at home? What is the day?
What's the setup?
What's the setup, right? And once you start talking about those things and saying, okay, well, if you've got a partner, can you do the morning shift? Can they do the afternoon shift with the kids? You can do non-client facing work from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Look, that's not ideal for anybody, but
welcome to the real world.
Well, we're doing
what we
a
can.
state of crisis, right? So I think you actually just have to have the conversations, and it's not going to be perfect. There's always going to be meetings that get organised that don't work around everybody, because you've got all these moving pieces, all these different families that you're trying to work together. But talk to your people and say, what can I do to give you the ability to actually be efficient and effective in a way that's going to work around the reality of the children being home with you?
No, I think that's a very well put structure. So, okay, riddle me this. In normal circumstances, if you've got the kids in the background on the phone and all that sort of thing, it can be quite disruptive. It's funny, we talked about this the other day. I don't even think about that. Like, I've got the kids around all the time, and I've got clients who understand, and they've got kids, and everyone's like, oh, well, the kids are making noise, that's life. But do you think there's any anxiety for people around having the kids in the background, even given the circumstances.
He
sets up a question in a Dorothy Dix.
Yes, there's anxiety, Christian, I think, and this might be unpopular or whatever, but if you're a woman, I think, and I've actually discovered my own unconscious bias when I'm on the phone to a bloke and I do hear kids in the background, I sort of panic and think, oh God, that doesn't look good, right? And then I remember, oh, he's a bloke, it doesn't matter, what a great dad, right? Whereas I have spent my career with children.
Yes.
You know, you've just got to pretend they don't exist, because if you are dealing with someone who doesn't know you, who doesn't know your work ethic or your focus, if they do hear kids in the background, as a woman, I think the instinct is to feel that you are not focused, you're not committed, you're distracted. That's the reality. Maybe I'd love to be wrong, but I don't think that's the case. So
I don't think you're wrong.
I would say to all of us, if you are thinking these things, maybe try and catch yourself and say, if I'm speaking to a woman and I can hear kids in the background, this is not a situation of her choosing. I tell you what, she'd be much happier in the office without the kids running around. She's doing her best.
Absolutely.
And she's no different from Joe Bloggs, who's in the same boat 3 doors down, okay? So I think that's just something as a society, as a community, we're still working through this stuff. But I think our starting point has to be, if you hear kids in the background, just think, Jesus Christ, this woman is doing a great job, just like all the other parents right now, especially in Melbourne, who now for months and months have had to juggle kids and work.
It is an interesting point that you make. Like, I don't delve too far into gender sort of issues around the workplace. I think they certainly exist in a lot of areas, but it is interesting that you say that, like, for instance, if I'm on the phone and the kids are all around, people are like, oh, how cute, what a great dad. You know, there's no question about that. And while I don't think the kind of clients people we work with that think this way, I think there are lots of people who do think, oh, you know, the mother with the children, oh, well, she's looking after the kids as a primary, but I don't think that of the father. It is interesting, isn't it?
When you talk about clients, that's what I was saying. The people that you might work with all the time who know you and you've earned their trust are not going to worry about that, because they know you're going to get the job done. Yeah. But there will be circumstances where you might be talking to a new client or someone who doesn't know you, and, you know, we've just got to not think poorly of that person with the kids in the background. It just is what it is.
And certainly not currently. Yeah.
Let's stop complaining. Let's think.
We're not complaining.
It's just a reality.
We're solving the world's problems, or at least identifying
Another
them.
thing, and you know, survey of one 11-year-old of what helped him in terms of parents working from home and all of this was actually knowing what the day was going to look like. So, okay, this parent's got this phone call at this time, this one's got a Zoom at this time, you'll be working quietly next to this one while they work, you know, having actually a plan for the day. And let's face it, like, who knows?
Good luck.
Good luck keeping to the plan. But actually, from the kids' perspective, having a plan the night before about what the next day looks like was really helpful, and also helped everybody keep on track, right? So
it's a good look. You're making a lot of sense, Laura Racky. And no, I think so. I can't
plan the day. The kids then know when it's playtime, when mum or dad are on a phone call and they need to be, you know, quiet. Give them food to shut them up, and you know, maybe look into a kids co that we're going to talk about soon to get some help. But to sum it all up, can I sum it up? Is it time?
No, the thing I would add to that is that, again, from a leadership point of view, you're looking at your team. You should have a pretty good idea of who's in what circumstance generally.
Talk to your people.
Talk to them.
Ask them how they're going.
Look, the thing about this whole rubbish that's going on right now is that it's a perfect opportunity to reset a lot of things. And people are going to be working flexibly, much like whichever way you cut it, a lot more going forward. And that's going to mean, you know, it might be at 4 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon where the kids are home from school or whatever. So this is going to happen a lot more. And I think there's a real chance to drag down the barriers here around some of this, frankly, rubbish that is, you know, that people can't work and they've got children, or the children, you know, like, people are doing it, and it's bloody hard. It's a legitimate juggle. Right now, it's weighed on top of the fact that we're welded into our houses. But
and not only are parents, so, you know, having little kids who aren't even doing schoolwork, but think of the parents who are responsible for their workload, but also they've got the burden of of making sure that kids are keeping up with their schoolwork. So it's
Yes.
not like we can just put kids in front of the telly from
That's
9
true.
till 5
That's true.
because actually we've got to make sure they're keeping on top of their maths and their reading and all of that stuff. So
True.
there's a lot of pressure
Making a
on
lot
everyone.
of sense. Which always makes me nervous.
Talk to your people. There's always a way to work through all of this to keep everybody at least on an even keel and kicking goals as best they can. And I think we've all just got to be easy on each other.
Well, I think we identified a number of problems and solved almost nothing. But